The US has signed a controversial deal to develop civilian nuclear power in Saudi Arabia. The two countries say the agreement is for peaceful nuclear cooperation and won't lead to Riyadh having nuclear weapons. But critics are concerned the deal could pave the way for other countries in the Middle East to want to acquire nuclear arms. Sarah Smith has more from Washington.
At the same time as he's threatening to escalate his attacks in Iran, President Trump today travelled to witness the return of the remains of US service members killed in the conflict.
We're going to Dover. Yes, some of you are going with us to honour our heroes, and they are indeed great heroes, actually.
Defending his decision to start that war, the president claimed all the fallen soldiers had echoed his war aims.
All of them said very strongly, we cannot let Iran have a nuclear weapon. They won't have a nuclear weapon.
A total of 18 US service members have been killed over 5 months of this war. Thousands of Iranians are believed to have died. For 12 straight days, US planes have attacked Iranian defences despite a supposed ceasefire. And today, Donald Trump said he will soon target civilian infrastructure as well, posting on social media, "Anytime the Islamic Republic of Iran shoots at a ship in the Strait of Hormuz, whether it be by missile, rocket, drone or any other device or weapon, the United States will bomb and destroy one bridge or power plant." The war in Iran has strained relations with some of America's closest allies in the Gulf, like Saudi Arabia. Its de facto leader, Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, last visited the White House in November.
It's another league, Mr. President.
Now he's struck a deal believed to be very advantageous that will bring American nuclear power to his kingdom, raising fears that Saudi Arabia may eventually be able to develop a nuclear weapon.
Suffice it to say, the U.S. is not going to reach any agreement with any country in the world that leads to the risk of proliferation.
Donald Trump revelled in his visit to Saudi Arabia last year and has now given the country a very favourable deal. US companies will run nuclear power plants inside the kingdom without the Saudis having to sign up to the tight restrictions imposed on other nations. That's why there are widespread fears this deal could lead one day to a Saudi Arabian nuclear bomb.
Well, let's pick up on that point. Let's talk to Gina Abercrombie-Winstanley, former US ambassador and president of the Middle East Policy Council. Gina, is this the deal of the century for Saudi Arabia? What's the US getting in return?
Yeah, thank you for having me. It is an extraordinary deal. There are things that the Saudis got that other allies equally close have not received. Most importantly, the Saudis, unlike the Emiratis, for instance, were not required to recognize Israel as part of the deal to get access to nuclear technology. The Biden administration, which began the talks with Saudi, was insisting upon that. President Trump has done away with it, has decided it's not necessary. They also seem to have an opening to do enrichment inside Saudi Arabia. Again, the UAE does not do that. They purchase their uranium from abroad, and others do the enriching for them. This is one of the reasons why there are proliferation concerns. So we expect some pushback from members of Congress who recognize that the Iranians received technology from us in the same way when our relationship was very positive, and now we're in a very different place. There are concerns that that could happen with Saudi Arabia as well.
Right. And when we look at those future safeguards, how controversial is it that Washington is supposedly monitoring the program, not the UN's nuclear watchdog?
Well, that is highly unusual insofar as the IAEA is the organization that is the gold standard for inspections, an organization that the United States has excellent relations with and deep confidence in their abilities. So the fact that they are not going to be the ones to do the inspections in Saudi Arabia is of interest. There certainly will be a good deal of questions about that from Congress. And of course, if other states, nuclear states, were to set up similar arrangements, Iran saying Russia might do the inspections, or another country and Pakistan might do the inspections, this would be something that the United States would express a great deal of concern about.
So, with those potential concerns about this, how could this be given political approval in the US, or could it be blocked?
It could be blocked, but it would take a unity among Republicans, or at least enough Republicans to join Democrats to block it. That has not been seen during this administration. The Congress has 90 days to review the agreement once it's presented to them, but it would take a two-thirds majority to override a presidential veto, and that hasn't been done and is highly unlikely to be done.
Right, so this may very well go ahead. Gina Abercrombie Winstanley, former US ambassador, thank you for joining us on the show. So let's see how the US and Saudi Arabia reached this deal. Well, the two countries have been working towards this milestone for years under both Republican and Democratic US administrations. A non-binding memorandum of understanding between the US and Saudi Arabia was first signed in 2008 to develop civilian nuclear energy. From 2017 to 2019, the US granted 7 American companies authorization to engage in civil nuclear discussions with Saudi Arabia. Those talks stalled for a while until 2022, when the US and Saudi signed a new memorandum on the exchange of technical information and cooperation in nuclear safety matters. Well, in November 2025, the US and Saudi Arabia signed a joint declaration which the White House says built the legal foundation for the partnership. That's now officially been signed. Well, the US-Saudi deal was previously thought to be conditional on Saudi Arabia normalizing ties with Israel, as we heard, but that has not happened. Well, let's discuss this more with Dr. Benjamin Rad, a senior fellow at the UCLA Berkel Center for International Relations and a lecturer in Middle East Studies. Benjamin, could this trigger Iran seeing a regional neighbor and foe given such preferential treatment?
So Iran's not in a position to demand preferential treatment from the U.S. perspective. This is a country that has flouted its commitments under the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty by engaging in a clandestine nuclear enrichment program, which was discovered several years ago, many years ago, back in the early 2000s, late 90s. What it will do, however, is make it seem like there are two different inspection protocols, one for nations that the U.S. favors, and then a protocol for everyone else. So either you have a nuclear energy program that you share with inspections to go with it, which is what the UAE deal signifies, or you don't. What the U.S. is demonstrating here is that it can and will play favorites based on interpersonal relationships between, let's say, a president and another head of state.
Absolutely. And I want to get on to how America's allies are reacting, like the UAE and Israel. But just on that point, could this up the ante with Iran, seeing the possibility that Saudi Arabia could end up one day with nuclear weapons?
And it can, indeed. For the Iranians now, it could present the challenge that there is a second state in the region following Israel that now will have nuclear capabilities, not nuclear weapon capabilities, but the fact that there's a clause in here that allows the Saudis to enrich uranium. Basically, there is no gold standard that was applied to the UAE that allows for domestic enrichment. That could potentially lead to Saudi development of a nuclear weapon if they can become a threshold state. For Iran, that raises the stakes in the region.
Right, understood. And now to those allies that we were discussing, the UAE and Israel. I mean, how are they reacting? We heard that this was meant to be potentially tied to a deal with Israel, harmonizing relations with Saudi Arabia. That seems to have gone. And as you say, the UAE not allowed to enrich on their soil.
It does not look good. It looks like, again, this is more of a demonstration, not of diplomacy between the U.S. and Saudi Arabia, but the strength and nature of the relationship between President Trump and the Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. So it's really a transactional situation more than a diplomatic one. And I think it underscores the unique relationship that President Trump has with certain heads of state. And it demonstrates that the United States, if it feels it needs to adjust its policies and preferences to give priority in certain types of deals, it will do so at the expense of other states with whom it's already signed these deals.
Have you noticed any other reaction in the Middle East that's been surprising?
So it's been quiet, relatively speaking. I think because the specific language has not been released. We've only heard about rumors about what it contains, about a carve out or limited inspection regime system. I think until the full text is released and it's understood what this entails, the alternative angle to this is one that brings the U.S. or the Saudis closer into the U.S. sphere, one that cements the bond between the two nations, one that I think serves as a further deterrent to Iran, and possibly raises the stakes for proliferation if this situation gets out of hand. So I think it's a cautious wait and see approach before other nations take a position.
Okay, well, definitely one to watch. Dr. Benjamin Rad, thanks very much for joining us on the programme.